Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Chasing Meet Cutes podcast. I'm your host, Nicole.
And I'm your host, Trisha. Thanks again for joining us. We are just loving talking about all these rom-coms.
Yes.
Some
so
roms,
fun.
some more rom, some more com.
Mm-hmm.
But there is romance nonetheless. And so today we're going to jump into a Netflix original movie called Players. This was just from this year, 2024. And yeah, I thought it was a pretty good one overall, but we definitely have some opinions.
Yeah.
But before we get into the romance, Nicole, give us a summary. What was this movie about?
This movie is all about Mack, who's played by Gina Rodriguez.
Love her, by the way.
She is a sports writer who's mastered the art of turning dating into a game with her friends until she unexpectedly catches real feelings for a charming war correspondent, Nick, who is played by Tom Ellis. Suddenly, her playbook isn't much help, and she has to figure out if she's ready to drop the games and actually go all in on love. It's a fun, flirty rom-com with plenty of laughs, heart, and a reminder that sometimes the best move is just being real. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like, I do feel like this movie gave us all the feels of a good rom-com, like that little short description. Fun, flirty, plenty of laughs, like definite comedic elements throughout this entire movie. Like, I feel like some of the ones we've talked about so far have leaned more towards the romance element with a side of comedy, but this almost feels like the perfect blend.
Yeah, like a 50-50 mix.
Yeah. So yeah, we see Mack, played by Gina Rodriguez, in the opening scene along with her group of friends. Gosh, what are their names? We got Adam, we got Brannigan, we got Little,
whose name is...
Yeah, I mean,
I forget.
Is it just because he's the little brother?
Yeah. They do say his name.
Ryan. When he introduces himself. And then later on we meet Ashley. So the group of them have developed this
playbook.
Yeah, a playbook that they've come up with all these they're called the wildest names. Like
and they're so
the Little
elaborate.
Mermaid.
It's so funny.
And it's like sports plays, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the premise is to get them to meet someone out at a bar, and end goal is just to hook up.
Yeah.
Like literally that's from the beginning of the movie, that is the goal.
Yeah. Hookup culture on full display.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like we should give a little disclaimer. Like personally speaking, we don't participate in hookup culture. I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I don't think there are any benefits to it.
Yeah.
But again, that's our personal conviction. And so
this is a movie.
So we're gonna walk through it. And so if our opinions seem to, I don't know, derail from that outlook or viewpoint, it's just because we're talking through the movie and not actually, like, if you know us personally, you'd be like, wow, you're down for that, huh? And I'm like, no,
we're not.
Hear me out now.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first thing I noticed about this whole concept that they've created is that there's absolutely no boundaries, very low standards. Like, they're all just like DTF, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, 100%.
Like, they don't need to know anything about the person. Yeah. They're just solely going off of looks.
Yep. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
It's they're obviously willing to go to great lengths with these plays.
Elaborate.
To do that.
Oh my gosh, they're elaborate.
It is funny the way they talk about the plays. And it's like, oh my gosh, they're like, and they have them memorized, which is insane. Like, the playbook is thick, y'all. There is no actual real playbook. Yeah. Like, physical playbook.
But if you were to print
there is a lot in there. And it is funny. It is funny.
Yeah. And the two friends that we see that are obviously connected more than anyone else in the friend group is Mack and Adam. They just have Coach once again. Gosh, this is like the third Damon Wayans Jr. movie we've talked about so far.
Yeah.
Not mad about that.
No.
But yeah, he plays Adam in this movie. And so Adam and Mack clearly have like a different dynamic than the rest of them or like the group as a whole. And you can just tell that they know each other. They've all been friends for
Yeah.
years, and they've gone through different seasons of life together and loves and losses and all those things. But specifically Adam and her, they just have this really cute connection. They definitely can be vulnerable with each other and kind of
they're
ask,
like the closest out of
definitely like they're the best friends among the friends. And we kind of see this right after one of the first scenes, and they're walking back, and she kind of seems a little sad, and Adam's like, or she said, "Do you want to go get falafel?" And he's like, "What's wrong? You only eat falafel when you're down." And she's like, "What do you mean? Like, I'm fine." And he's like, it was just like a little detail of like, I know you.
Yeah, like I see you. I have noticed this trend with you. Like when, I don't even remember the scenarios he said, but like when your aunt died, like you wanted to go get falafel or whatever. I don't remember the scenarios, but he named a few.
Yeah.
I feel like very early on, you can kind of tell that he has more of an interest than just being friends with her. Like even in the opening scenes, it's like you can kind of tell he has that interest in Mack, but it's like it's pretty subtle.
Well, and I think the one difference we see in Adam is he's not
running
using
plays.
the play. He's not running any plays for himself. He's just participating, helping his friends.
Yeah.
And so he does kind of stand out among the group in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think you can kind of tell like he has a care for her right away. And she's just kind of like not completely oblivious to it, but almost like playing into it while not really fully realizing that that's how he's maybe feeling.
Yeah.
But they don't really, it's not like he confessed his love and she rejected him and it was like that dynamic. It's just kind of like,
no, not at all.
They're two friends. He seems to have an interest in her.
Yeah.
Whatever. So pretty quickly on in the movie, they all work together too at this newspaper.
Yeah.
And in New York. And they're sitting there talking, and in walks Nick.
Another Nick.
I was thinking too, I'm like, well, you know what? Like, it's our generation of names that we're seeing in all these movies.
True.
Think about the boys in elementary school. I'm like, we got Nick, we got Matt, we got
Adam. True.
Jesse, Jake. Actually didn't know many Jakes. But anyways. I digress. Yeah, so Nick walks in. Nick, do we know what's his last name?
Nick.
I'm surprised you don't remember.
I know. Guys, I'm really good with names.
You're just like very detail minded.
Yeah, it's like Nick Frazier or something like that. I don't think it's Frazier.
We're just going to call him Nick because I have no idea. But he walks into the paper and basically like their like jaws drop to the floor. Her and one of the other friends just think he is like the cutest, most handsome, like real man. And so they definitely decide that they're interested in him, and Mack especially decides she wants to run a play to get a date with him, to get a night with him, we should say. So yeah, I don't even know what the play was that they ran that night at the bar, but
yeah, I don't remember the name of it, but they ran it and it worked.
It did, and they ended up in bed together.
They sure did. Yeah.
And after that, she like meets back up with them like that same night and like kind of debriefs, and they were like, you know, she's like, oh, that's so great, and da-da-da, and yeah, she just decides like she wants to see him again and she wants to run a second play on this dude. And so then it becomes like brainstorm session of like, well, what, we don't normally do that.
Yeah. And and the reason she really wants to is because like, obviously he's a very like successful person. He has his life together.
Multiple books.
Yeah. He's written multiple books. His apartment is nice. He has like, she made a point to say like, she has framed photos of him and his parents. Like, so basically she's like, oh, like maybe I want to be with this guy, like, cause he's an adult, as Adam called him.
Yes.
He behaves more like an adult than the people they've been, hooking up with, sleeping around with.
And
previously.
my opinion is Mack feels almost immediately she puts herself below him. Like, totally is viewing this guy as out of her league. Like, she's got to change things about herself in order to not only make contact with him, but also just to, like, impress him or feel like they're in the same ballpark as far as interests and all that.
Yeah.
So they're brainstorming what the second play might be, which in our minds, we were both like, I get that this is the whole movie is like setting plays and all that, but I was like, you had the end. Like, right. You had a good night. He had a good night. Like, why do you have to, like, even have another play? Just, like, text him and be like, let's hang out.
Right. Yeah, we were confused by that, like, why you would need.
But I guess that kind of shows her insecurity because she doesn't go beyond.
Know how to do it.
Yeah, she doesn't know how to go beyond a one-night stand.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just the answer to our question there. But,
I guess so, yeah.
Before we, like, move on to what the play is and how they meet up again, I think it's worth talking about the meet cute that we see between Ashley and Little.
Yes.
Because it was just a classic, like, literal bump into you meet cute style, and it was so cute.
Yeah. And Ashley is played by Liza Koshy, who is
she's
so hilarious.
She's so funny.
She's so funny.
So they bump in. He bumps into her.
Yeah.
And he's just like taken aback by her beauty, and it's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, literally says
it's
whoa.
So cute.
And introduces himself. They both do. And I thought shortly after that, when they're brainstorming, Ashley's character kind of asked, like, well, what do you guys normally do for the second things or the second play? And because she's not a part of the friend group yet. She doesn't know about all the thousands of plays they've made.
Yeah.
So she's like, well, what do you normally do? And Little had this great quote, and I wrote it down. It said, we've never played for keeps. Like,
which the concept of that is insane to me.
And, like, these are not, they're talking about high school being, like, over a decade ago.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they're not
like
in college. They're not, they're definitely, like, in their 30s.
Yeah.
Which it's no judgment. It's just, like, if that's what you want in life, how do you expect to get it just through a bunch of one-night stands?
Right.
Like, I don't.
Right.
That's where I guess I can't relate. But, yeah. So they developed this whole plan.
Yeah, this, like, elaborate.
Multiple ways to just create all these little meet cutes with Nick. Between
just, like,
Nick
force
and
these
Mack.
meet cutes. They all have their own positions in this play. A daytime position, a nighttime position.
Yeah.
Like, Little doesn't have a job, so he's on daytime and trying to, like...
Little, what is Little doing with his life?
I don't know. But he doesn't have a job, so he's assigned to the daytime task force. And...
he just follows him.
He just has to, like, follow him and see what his patterns of life are, basically. And then Brannigan has nights, sees what bars he goes to, who he's bringing with him, how many times has he seen that person with Nick, all the things.
Yeah.
So it's a very elaborate way to position Mack in front of him in all these different places.
Right. And Mack's just, like, on behind the scenes security detail, like, total internet sleuth, like, find out everything you can online about this dude.
Yeah.
And so they really find out everything there is to know about this guy. And so she is able to start going to this bookstore that he frequents, or that he's doing a reading at. And she has, like, 8 days to become a regular or something like that. She goes every day. I'm like, all this when you could just text him.
I know. It's so elaborate.
Whatever.
She goes every day for 8 days. Gets
she
to know
Mary.
the owner.
Yeah, Mary the owner.
They become besties. They know each other now.
Yep. And so they do. They create these little meet cutes, and Nick walks right into them, oblivious to the setup every time. And Liza has a scene with her where they, like, meet him at this, like, screening, like, this movie in a park situation.
Oh, yeah.
And she's supposed to be like the drunk friend who like she has to leave to take care of or whatever. And that scene was just so funny.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about physical comedy before.
Mm-hmm.
She is like
nails it.
Yeah,
nails it.
So freaking funny. But yeah, I don't know. Where do you want to go from there? Because I have a part that I wrote down.
My next thing is Coach, or sorry, I literally wrote him as Coach like numerous times on here. Adam and Mack share like the sweetest moment
in the field
of the
well,
where the old Yankee Stadium was. That's I guess just now a park, but it's literally just them two in this big old open grassy area, and they just share the cutest moments.
Sweetest
like
moment.
I don't know, and she kind of just is talking about she has to write this piece for the paper, and she's talking about how her parents met at the game, and that was like their thing. They would go to the games, and I just thought it was so sweet. And Coach was like, I'm so sorry. Adam was like very comforting to her because it was a very like heavy moment for her, and kind of an emotional moment. And he just kind of pulled her in and like comforted her.
Yeah, he was like cuddling her, and she just like leaned into him and let him like be there for her. And kind of just goes back to what we said in the beginning of they can be vulnerable with each other.
Yeah.
And they don't have to like have a play in order to like talk.
Right.
And share their real selves. And just I don't know, like I think it was in that moment, like even just like when she was telling him about the feature that she wanted to do, this piece that she was writing, and the concept of the old Yankee Stadium, or just everything that went down there, like historically speaking, just in the baseball realm, but also just like in the community and what that field meant to anybody in New York City. And so she decides she's going to do all these interviews, and as she's explaining it to him, not only for her personal reasons, but just like all the other stuff, he's just like gleaning in this.
Yes.
He's just lit up. He knows the importance that it is to her, and he sees the value in it. And so he's just so excited, and they have this little like, they just like do these little like dance, like they're like vibing with each other and just in the moment, just kind of celebrating in their own little cute way.
Yeah.
And they have several moments like that, but it's just, he supports her in that, like 100% all in, believes in her, tells her that, and just becomes like her champion over this piece when she's nervous about it, because she's kind of, her job at the paper is to just go to all these random sporting events that are like professional sports, and they're like chess, boxing, and like random like
some like
dinky,
pickleball thing
like,
or something.
Just like, she's not covering the Yankees, like she's going to like all these minor things that happen to be professional sports. And so I think she's doing this because she knows it's kind of like do or die. So she's
her job is kind of on the line.
She's gonna write this piece that means a lot to her. She's really trying to get this specific guy named Bob Farkle, who's never done an interview, and all these things. So that's like, she shares her goal and whatever. But I think it was either that same night or the night after, when she kind of asks Adam, or kind of gets it out of him, that he's been seeing someone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was that night on the grass where he's like, I got a number.
Yeah. And she's like pressing him, like, well, who is she? Like, what's she like? Like, what's she doing? And it's like, you can tell in the slightest way, like, she feels some type of way.
Oh, yeah.
About that.
Especially when we meet this person.
Right.
Yes. Claire.
So I have the brunch scene next on my list, unless there's anything else you want to talk about before then.
No, I mean, I just wrote down about when we meet Claire, you can tell that Mack is like clearly irritated and like confused as to why she doesn't know the details of this relationship that has formed. But that's really all I have about that.
She's definitely protective of Adam. She knows how great he is.
Yeah.
And I think she's kind of like, at this point, I don't know that it's jealousy that comes out. It's just this like, are you good enough for him?
Right.
Because he's like the best.
Yeah. Yeah. They just have like this undeniable bond, her and Adam.
Yeah. Yeah. So they agree. She gets Adam to agree to go on a double date with her and Nick because they can then help each other out, kind of thing. So he's like, all right.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
What a nightmare that turns out to be.
And you know Adam just like can't say no to her. Because like in that moment when she's asking about the double date, he's like, as long as it's not brunch, and he's like about to say brunch, and she's like, I was thinking brunch, and then quick transition to the scene of them at brunch. Like he's just like, okay, fine. Like I know we're gonna end up at brunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, brunch was a nightmare. And here's another example of like, up until this point, we've seen little scenes of her and Nick going on these little dates.
Yeah.
And they're all based around lies.
Every single one.
And like her having to do copious amounts of research on subjects she doesn't care about.
Yeah.
Like
she
Byzantine and
she completely changes who she is.
Classical music. Yeah, I mean, and it's all for this guy who she thinks is like just a real man, adult, has it all together, the best, could do no wrong.
Yeah.
Hot, whatever. And like he's a decent looking dude.
Sure.
But anyways, they're at this brunch. And throughout the brunch, her and Adam just like have this like playful weirdness that like is definitely like they're one of those friendships that's like it's 95% inside jokes.
Yes.
And if anybody else is around them, they're just kind of like
they just feel left out.
Yeah, like I don't know what's
we're not
going
in on it.
No, we're not. We are not in on this joke. And they're kind of oblivious to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They don't recognize that what they're doing is
alienating. Yeah. Totally.
Talk more about the brunch scene and just like
so
everything.
It was awkward from the get-go. Like they had this awkward moment of like who's gonna order what and whether or not they want to share certain things or whatever. And I think Mack is the one who's not a sharer, and that's me, guys. I don't like to share. But anyway, so they like start to talk about what they're going to order. And one of the things on the menu is a whole branzino fish. And Nick apparently loves them. Like if it's available, he's going to get it. So Adam and Mack have had this conversation before about the branzino. As we stated, they've done all this, or she's done all this research about what he likes and whatever. And they had a whole conversation about how it's so disgusting. How could anybody eat that? The eyes are weird.
Yeah.
But here we are at this brunch, and Mac is like, I love a whole branzino. And they end up ordering 3. So one for Adam, one for Mac, one for Nick. And then Claire orders the entire menu. But anyway, so they have this whole thing about the branzino. Mac doesn't even, everybody keeps making a comment like, oh, do you like it? Like, did you try it yet? And she's like, actually, I think I'm just going to like eat my salad first. And she never gets around to eating it. But it just was, again, so telling that like she's trying to mold herself into something that she's just not, just for this guy. And it's like, how do you even know that he wouldn't like you
she doesn't
for you?
Yeah.
And like, if you just wanted to order the pancakes or something, like,
right, he might be totally fine with that.
Yeah. I don't know. They obviously shared so many moments of just them two. They were sitting across from each other, Adam and Mac, and like you said, with the inside jokes, and they just kept having these moments. And like the other two were like, "Are you guys gonna like fill us in on what's going on?" And I think that's when Mac brings up her feature.
Her piece, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this was the first scene where we really see Mac start to notice that Nick doesn't really like or care about the same things she does. Like when they were having one of their weirdo inside joke moments, and they're like, I don't even know what they said to spark this, but they start doing the whole Star Wars like lightsaber fight scene.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, like I'm not really into Star Trek, or I've never seen Star Trek. And they both look at him like, it's Star Wars. And I think that's just like telling, like, yeah, no duh. Like he's just in his own, he's in a separate category. Like y'all don't have anything in common.
Nothing. Not
all.
Not a single thing.
And it's not even like an opposites attract moment. It's just like you're incompatible.
Right.
But she can't admit to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Adam brings up her piece and makes a comment about like, well, if you get Bob Farkle or something, and she's like, I got him.
Yep.
I got him. And he's just over the moon. Like, you're kidding. You actually got him? Like, kind of like, shut up. Like, tell me more about it. And when he says this, Nick has this look of confusion on his face because she's never told him that she's writing a feature piece. And so now she has to kind of explain it to him. And honestly, his reaction was fine.
At that moment,
point,
yeah,
it's like,
it was fine.
What? I mean, it was just kind of like, wow, you didn't tell me that.
He didn't know.
He had no idea.
Yeah. So the reaction,
he doesn't know
was
anything
fine.
about her. So yeah, I mean, he kind of had this supportive, like, wow, that's really great. I can't wait to read it. Like, and Adam's like, you better send that to me. Like, I want to read it.
Yep.
And yeah, so that night I thought it was interesting. We kind of got a glimpse into Adam and Claire brushing their teeth at the sink.
Yep.
They're standing at a pedestal sink, okay, in a small bathroom. So they're very close together. And you'd think that, oh, they just started dating. They're like in this exciting phase of things. They're not talking. They're not looking at each other. He's looking at his phone, texting with Mack.
Yeah.
And she's just sending him tons of pictures of Branzinos.
Yeah.
And they're just like two besties chatting, like sending memes back and forth. You know that's what they are sending. Like all the funny memes, all the funny things that they, the little inside jokes. And then she sends him, her piece, and he reads it and just walks out of the bathroom. And Claire has this look like, this ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like
it clicks for her. Like,
yeah, okay. He's totally into her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what was it, the next day or something, Adam gives her his feedback and was just like, basically saying like, wow, like everything about that piece was so great. Like,
yeah, it's perfect. It's you.
The sound, like your sound. He just kept saying your sound. It was just so you. It's just your sound. Like everything about it was so great. Like, you got to send it to Kirk right away, the boss.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I'm not ready to send it yet. He's like, what do you mean? Like, you got to send it. It's so great. She's like, well, Nick said he would read it and give me some notes on it. And he's like, who cares what he says? Like, I'm telling you it's good. Send it. Like, sure, get his feedback, but don't wait to send it to get his feedback. Like,
yeah, right.
It's perfect. But she obviously decides to wait, and it's like a couple days before Nick even like reads it at all.
Gives it a thought, yeah.
Which says something.
Right. Especially because it wasn't that long.
No, 2 pages.
It wasn't like a whole book.
No, Brannigan made it very clear that it was
2.5 pages.
2.5 pages. He could read it on the toilet.
Yeah.
And yeah, so no excuses is what they were really saying.
Yeah.
Nick, I don't care how busy you are. I don't care what type of writing you do. It doesn't take long to read this piece and give her some feedback.
Yeah.
But then he does give her the feedback. And
he wants her to change the whole thing.
He basically rewrites it. He rewrites it. And the way that he did it too, like sending it back in an email with all these edits and little like red marks throughout and speech bubbles, and the part that we see in there that's like, bringing up your personal info about your family is inappropriate.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he looks
That was
at
the
it
whole
purely like
thing.
he doesn't see a single thing wrong with what he did.
Yeah.
He was asked to edit a piece of writing, and he did it as though he was a professor at a community college.
Right.
Okay? Rip that thing to shreds. I don't know about y'all, but that's usually how my papers came back to me when I was in
For
college.
sure.
But, yeah, it was like such a gut punch to her.
Mm-hmm.
He had like way too many notes on it.
Yeah.
He didn't understand. It just proved that he didn't actually know her.
Yeah.
Which, in his defense,
she was lying.
Yeah, she didn't give him a chance to
about
really
who
know
she
her.
was. Yeah.
Right. So she kind of is dealing with this. She's upset at him.
Mm-hmm.
But also you're kind of like, well, girl, you didn't allow him to get to know you, to be able to read a piece like that you wrote, to understand that. Like,
right.
So it's one of these like moments where as a viewer you want to hate Nick for it, but you're kind of like, well, I kind of get it. Like,
yeah,
he's not like a horrible dude. He was dating somebody who he thought was like, who operated the same way he did.
Right.
And
right.
he wasn't.
He just was going like based off of the facts he had in front of him.
Right. Was it still like a douche move?
Yes.
Yeah. In my opinion, even if he did know her, that would still be weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all the edits came before the night of this big like UNICEF ball dinner situation, and all the friends were going, and of course she shows up looking fire in this dress.
Yeah.
And Adam sees her and is just like, oof, dang. And Adam shows up alone, and they're all like, whoa, where's Claire?
Mm-hmm. She gone.
She is gone. They obviously didn't work out. And from the moment she arrives, Adam could tell that something was off with Mack.
Yeah.
Because she had just received his edits, and she hadn't really even had a chance to talk about it with Nick at this point. And so this whole night, Nick is just being pulled in 25 different directions, and she's just kind of there alone in some of these moments, and just kind of then with her friends talking.
And he doesn't even really acknowledge her, besides giving her like one little like look and head nod.
Right. And he kind of keeps doing this thing that like, oh, like 1 minute, like, oh, I'm like, he's getting tugged in this direction and that, and he's just whatever. But by this point, like, they're boyfriend and girlfriend. Like, they've set that label up to where they're in a relationship.
Yeah.
It's not this like casual dating thing. So, you know, and on top of it, like, they just kind of had this like, she's low-key upset, like, with all these edits. And so Adam just kind of, you know, pulls her off to the side and is like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, I know something's up.
Yeah.
And
he just kind of like, I mean, he tells her the truth in love. Like, what he's saying to her is harsh, but he's just trying to get her to realize, like, his behavior is not acceptable. Like, none of this should be okay with you. As far as how he's behaving at the party and the whole edits thing, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. She was like, she said something like about him being her boyfriend, and he was like, screw your boyfriend. Like, he rewrote you.
Yeah, this is not you anymore.
Yeah, you're not this person. And yeah, he does. He just spits a bunch of truth, and she's just kind of standing there taking it.
Yeah.
And she's like tearing up and getting emotional because I think she knows it's true, but also she's just also equally heartbroken. And she wanted this to work.
She's deep in this now.
And I told Nicole when we were watching it, because I love Gina Rodriguez, she's like one of the best on-screen criers. Like, when she expresses any emotion, it's so believable.
Yeah.
So she does. She gets emotional, and we then it cuts. Well, Adam kind of gets upset, you know, because she's basically going to try and make this work or talk to him about it. And he's just like, you can just tell he's like saddened.
Yeah.
That she's making this choice to be with somebody like this and who doesn't even appreciate her for who she is. And he obviously does. And so they kind of just have this moment where he walks off and they're not really talking.
Yeah.
Like he's ignored some of her texts and calls or whatever. But so after that, the evening of the event, it cuts to Nick and Mack at the apartment. And she's kind of like, hey, we need to talk about all the edits.
Yeah.
And he's just...
They just have this like huge blow up.
Yeah.
Basically.
Before the conversation, and when he's like undressing in the closet and she's getting undressed and or taking her shoes off, and he said something about, I didn't see much of Adam tonight, and he's like, yeah, he left pretty early, and he was like, he's so flaky. And she's like, actually he's not.
Yeah, like you watch your mouth.
Yeah, like, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're not gonna. First of all, you don't know him enough to say that.
Yeah.
Second of all, like, I'm gonna come to his defense here, because no, he's actually the least flaky person.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely got in an argument. He was like raising his voice.
Yeah, he was.
Which I don't like. Like, we can disagree, we can fight, so to speak. Like, we can argue about something.
Yeah.
But there's no reason for you to like yell
right
in my face.
Yeah.
Ever.
No.
So basically she ends it.
Yeah.
Right
she
there.
leaves.
Yeah.
And she goes straight to the falafel place. Which we know that's her thing. When she's down,
drowning her sorrows in falafel.
She goes to have falafel. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, the next morning at work, she shows up and she's kind of like obviously looking for Adam, and their other friend Brannigan comes by and is like, oh, he's somewhere, whatever.
On a site for something.
And in this moment, he's just like a good friend.
Yeah.
Like, he obviously can see that she has feelings for Adam, and Brannigan just comforts her, gives her a big hug, like wraps her up, says some encouraging words, but then cracks a joke immediately and kind of like breaks the tension there, and adds a little humor. And then they both just say like, I love you to each other. And I'm like, I just love when friends can do that. Like it's totally platonic. They're there for each other. But she gets called into her boss's office, and the boss basically tells her she loves the article that she wrote. She's not getting fired. In fact, she's like pushing this to like the Sunday paper and adding all these boosts that the article can get. And she's like, I want you covering Red Sox Yankees
Thursday.
Yeah. Thursday. I'm like, what day was it? Thursday. And she's just like, kind of, are you kidding me? Like, the validation that she needed from somebody who was the editor of this entire newspaper, telling her how great it was. So yeah, screw Nick. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, first of all, he writes completely different type like content. So
like, he writes books, not like short
he writes
form
books
content.
about like war and battered nations, and it's just not this. Like, she's writing about sports and the way it makes Americans feel, like baseball, like the most American sport. So anyway, well, that's not true. Baseball is probably not the most American sport, but anyways, my point is, he doesn't really deserve like a say in her writing. So cue to Thursday. Tell us about this whole play that they decide to do.
So this play is called the No Play Play, which they briefly...
But they had to do a play.
Which one?
The play to get Adam to... Where they like They set up this whole thing where they're like... Ashley tells the guys, oh, I got tickets
that's
to
the birthday...
I got
Little's
tickets to the
birthday?
game. Yeah, for Little's birthday.
Oh, I wasn't
We're going to get him there.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
Oh, you were just cutting straight to
I was just cutting straight to it because I don't.
Oh, okay, yeah. They basically have to get, because at this point, Adam and Mack are not speaking. Like, he's kind of just kept his distance. And she obviously wants to have a conversation with him. So they get him to go to the park where Yankee Stadium used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And this moment.
Yeah, it's so good.
So cute.
You take it away.
Well,
with the no play.
Yeah. So he obviously sees her standing at this park and goes up to her and he's like, kind of like, what is this? Like, what are you doing here? And she's just like, this is the no play.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, the no play? And she's like, well, I'm in the danger zone, but I'm laying it on the line here. So, and he's like, wait, aren't you supposed to be at the game? Like, you're going to be late. And she's like, I have to read this entire little monologue piece that she had at the end because
no, it's so good.
It was so freaking good and so like tear filled. Like it was so emotional. So I'm just going to read it. It's her little speech. She says, I have 2 minutes and 32 seconds. So that means I have 2 minutes to stand here with you in my favorite place. You know, where Babe Ruth played and DiMaggio played and Yogi Berra and where Lou Gehrig made his farewell speech and Nelson Mandela spoke and 3 popes held mass and 15,000 people gathered to pray for 9/11. For the past few months, I've been gathering all these memories from fans and none of them said any of that. It was all about the Cracker Jack toys and getting a beer with Dad and being there for the Giants to win their coin toss right after coming back from Iraq. But it was never about the plays. And for my parents, it was sitting right here, meeting for the first time and falling in love over Reggie bars. And so that's why I wanted you to come here, so that I can tell you, you're kind and thoughtful and funny. I love that you save half of everything you're eating for me. You walk me to the train, that you know when I need a falafel because I'm down, and you don't make fun of me because I smell like them. Because you tell me when I'm being an idiot, not to hurt me, but to help. And because with you, I feel safe to be fully and truly myself. Because you know that there's magic in the small things, that the park next to the stadium could be magic, and that the most important things aren't the most obvious. I'm about to cover Sox Yankees for the first time in my career, and I already know that my favorite moment of today is standing here telling you, I love you, Adam.
Ugh. So great.
And of course he breaks this beautiful moment with Mack, if you ever talk to me that much again. And then of course they have a quick back and forth of, well, I have a little bit left. No more. So much talking. And she's just like, I really practiced. And he's like, I'm going to kiss you now. And he just goes in for the kiss and the friends are in the background just oohing and ahhing. Yeah. And that's essentially how we see the movie end. But it really was perfect.
Yeah.
Like, I just love, like, we saw a couple meet cutes in this, right, with the minor characters and relationships, but we don't really see a meet cute with them.
Yeah.
Because they've known each other for so long. But I think that type of romance in movies is almost so much sweeter.
Yeah.
Because there's history there.
Right.
And there's deep love for one another and friendship and vulnerability and magic, as she describes it. And I think my favorite part of that whole speech she said was, because you tell me when I'm being an idiot, not to hurt me, but to help.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm definitely. Like, if that's not something we should all want in a partner, you know, and how many people are willing to call you out for being an idiot just for the sake of calling you out?
Yeah.
Like, you're not actually trying to help me. You're just trying to
be mean.
Yeah. And I really love that. And yeah, their relationship, I would say, would be goals.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah, for sure.
So that's like, they can be silly and goofy together, and they're so funny, and they have a great group of friends. Like, they're just so great.
Yeah, very, very sweet.
So are they toxic or not?
They are not.
No.
But her and Nick, toxic.
Definitely toxic.
Hookup culture, toxic.
Nothing good comes from hookup culture. No. If that's the lesson we learn, is that one night stands don't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
But.
And also, don't change who you are at your core,
right,
for somebody That's it. Period.
Yeah, you know what? In the movie All About Steve with Sandra Bullock, at the very end, she makes a comment that kind of goes with this. And she says, if you love someone, you got to let them go. If you have to stalk someone, they're probably not
yours to begin with.
Yeah. And, you know, if you have to stalk someone to get to know all the little details just to follow them and morph into somebody else for the sake of connecting.
Maybe they'll like me.
Yeah,
like, it's not even a guarantee. That's so crazy.
It's not the move.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't make Nick a bad guy. He's just, this whole situation was curated.
Yep.
So that just wasn't his person because they have nothing in common.
He was like maybe a victim in this whole thing.
You know what? He was. Yeah. And for that, we're so sorry, Nick.
Yeah.
Tom Ellis, great job. But yeah, that was Players on Netflix. I hope you guys
it's a good one.
Love listening to our opinions. And if you disagree with us, let us know what you disagreed with. And also give us your rating of that final speech that Mack had. Mm-hmm. Do you think it was 10 out of 10, 5 stars? Or are you like, I've heard better?
It's fine.
Let us know. Well, guys, we'll see you in the next episode of Chasing Meet Cutes.
See y'all later.